We're here to help you solve your people issues. But the reason we're doing that is to enable you to get better business outcomes. So Hogan is about your bottom line.
Right now, with AI and whatever is happening in the digital world, you really are not sure the profile that you're seeing, whether it belongs to a particular person or it belongs to a bot.
We need to educate the people about the validity and reliability of those tools and where to set the selection, because the tendency, and you were just saying AI coming up more and more, especially with younger generations, they want more immediate feedback.
People are the most consequential and dangerous forces on earth. Well, personality psychology is about the nature of human nature. It's about people. And wouldn't that be useful to know?
The Science of Personality podcast, brought to you by Hogan Assessments.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this special episode of The Science of Personality, in person, on video, and in beautiful Miami, Florida. Today, I'm joined by three very special guests. First, I have Nicole Neubauer. She's the CEO at metaBeratung and Personality Guidance, covering the markets in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. We're also joined by Peter Berry. He is the managing director at the Peter Berry Consultancy. They cover Australia, they cover New Zealand, they also cover Ireland now. And we're also joined by Gicheha Gitau. He's the client partner at Career Connections in Africa. And in this special episode, we are going to talk about the dark side of personality. I told our guest earlier, I said they were not chosen specifically for this for any good reason other than the fact that we know they're experts on this, not because they're the ones that are going to come in here and derail with us. But what we're gonna get out of this episode is taking a look at the dark side, which is measured by Hogan in the Hogan Development Survey assessment, and we're excited to have this conversation with the three of you today. I'm really looking forward to this. But first thing out of the gate, we'll just start here with Peter and go around the room. Tell us a little bit more about yourself. What do you want the audience to know beyond what I just told them, as far as just your titles and your company name? So,
Thank you, Blake, and it's a pleasure to be part of this
pleasure to have you.
Very special session we've got here today. Look, we've been a Hogan distributor for 25 years. We're very proud to be part of the Hogan family. We think leadership is the most important resource in the world. And if you're going to improve leadership, it's got to be measurable. So we love to use the 3 personality assessments. And we also often throw in the Hogan 360. So you're actually measuring the person below the waterline and the person above the waterline, and there's no place to hide. That's lots of data. And leadership is such an important resource. I know Dr. Hogan is passionate about it, but it's leadership effectiveness drives engagement, and engagement drives business outcomes.
Great. Good job.
Yeah, so pleasure to be here. Thanks so much, Blake.
Pleasure to have you.
Yeah, of course, discussing the dark side of personality. I think that's very, very interesting because we tend to focus more on the strengths of an individual, forgetting that the roles and the way the world operates is such that we'll always be under pressure. We may not always put our best foot forward. And therefore, there are those behaviors that might come across and might throw us off or might throw the teams that we work with. So very passionate to talk about that. And of course, the way we apply that within Career Connections in Nairobi is in supporting the leadership development and also using it for selection of leaders, especially at the senior level.
Great. And Nicole?
Yes, thank you very much for the invitation.
Thank you for coming.
It's nice to be here. So yes, the HDS is one of our core products, and I've been a Hogan distributor in Germany, Switzerland, and Austria also since 20 years now. We are very well known for the HDS, and we have more and more clients asking us about the 3 aspects of personality that Hogan provides. And we do a lot of selection consulting ever since COVID, because the way changed, people got interviewed, etc. And people are very aware that with the measure of derailers, we have a standalone product. And very often we get asked for correlations with narcissism, and I guess we talk about that later. But so it's very important to me to advocate for this, especially when we look at senior leaders' development in times of transformation, and that is currently number 1 criterion for the requests we get.
Great. Okay. But before we get into the meat of this episode, How are y'all enjoying Miami? Nicole, what do you think?
I just got in here last night, so really a little bit on jet lag. It's nice to be here, but more so, I love that we get together as distributors, because all together we are like the powerhouse of Hogan, really.
You really are.
Knowing all our markets, and I think with sharing and collaborating, and this is really my expectations for the next 2.5 days. I'm looking forward in learning and in growing our markets.
Awesome. Gicheha?
I got here yesterday as well. The aim is to beat that jet lag, focus on the podcast and the event. And then hopefully after that, you're going to explore all that you hear about Miami. It's my first time here, so I'm really open for ideas.
It's my first time actually getting to explore Miami. I've been through the airport, I think on my way to the Bahamas once upon a time. But I had some great food last night, and I think you're going to find some great food while you're here.
Amazing. Looking forward.
And Peter?
I'm very impressed with the blue sky and the blue water.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
In Australia, we're just going into winter at the moment. So to come over here and get this glorious sunshine and to feel warm. And I agree with Nicole. It's wonderful to have this opportunity to be part of the Hogan family this week. It's been a long time since we all got together.
Well, you keep moving, from one side of the world to the other. I mean, Miami's not much further from Ireland. You might as well, if you're going that far, you might as well just set up shop here and spend your winters here. So, okay, well, let's get to it. For my first question, because you all come from, very different regions of the world, could you each describe how you explain the Hogan Development Survey to new prospects or clients, and what seems to work best for you? Because it could, it might be different, in different places, but it's also curious to see how people describe the same thing. Mm-hmm. And Peter, we'll go with you first.
Good. So in Australia and New Zealand, we take the approach that leadership does drive engagement and performance, and it's measurable and improvable. So we talk the client through the validity and the science of using these 3 Hogan assessments. And we describe it as the MVPI, your values, what you want out of life. The HPI, a measure of behaviour that's going to help you achieve your goals in life. And then we talk about the HDS as being how you might stuff it up, how you might hit a brick wall, how you'll come undone. And we often use the language of Dr. Hogan, the importance of teams and tribes and groups getting along and getting ahead. And the barriers to getting along and getting ahead are in the HDS. So we love to get that data on the table and to identify high scores. And we do try to stress that high scores are strengths. And if a person is self-aware and self-regulating, so we don't want to go straight into the negative. This is how you will derail, for example. But when could this strength become a negative if you were lacking self-awareness or self-regulation during difficult periods and times? And it's going to hold back your career. So we put a lot of emphasis, particularly in coaching, working on the HDS, because they are the barriers to being successful in life, both at home and at work.
Great. Gicheha?
Yeah, coming from Kenya, introducing the HDS as the dark side of personality seems to be very catchy and resonate with a lot of people. And, it serves at the top of the funnel to tell me more about this. What do you mean dark side of leadership? What does that mean? And so it creates an environment to be able to engage further on that. And especially when you're applying it for selection, executive and the recruitment teams want to be sure that the person who is coming on board is not only strong from what they've seen on the cover letters, on the interviews, and what they've presented all through, but also really having this lens to be able to look at what are the chances that some other behaviors that we've not noticed might come through one person getting to the role. And that's very important, because as part of onboarding and after a few months, the next thing is now we want to see the results. We want to see what can you do. You promise all these nice things at the interview, how we're able to deliver that. So pressure is naturally going to come into the role, and therefore introducing that as understanding what might be the potential downside of the strengths that you've seen so far seem to resonate very well with talent acquisition teams. But on the development side, like Peter said, I think it's looking at the concept of how do you overuse your strengths, and how can therefore that derail you? How can that take you off course? And I think also the fact that we are not saying that this is part of the big five, then it really makes it very easy to be able to use that report for development purposes, and you can be able to link that to coaching. So yeah, the concept of for pre-selection and also before coaching or pre-coaching.
Okay. Nicole.
Yes, when we get requests, it's dependent a little bit on whether it's for selection or development. When it's for development, we put the emphasis on strategic self-awareness that we want to create in leaders. So obviously we focus on the HPI, the strength of personality and the values, and then also tackle the derailers, because we say that derailers can also be coached. Once you are aware, you can change and adapt behavior. It is different for selection. In selection, like I said before, many clients are aware that we offer derailers that can be measured, actually, and this is what they will want to see. So we are making sure whether a candidate fits to the competencies of a role. But I would also like to advocate that we talk about derailers as if this would be something that we don't want to see, obviously. But for some roles, we need to see it in leadership.
Do you see like, do you see a good mix of people who maybe see these derailers and push back a little bit, but also maybe one that has a lot of high risk derailers that they see it and they kind of own it and are like saying, yeah, that actually is me. Do you see a good mix of that? Or
It varies. It varies when it comes to strategic self-awareness. So some leaders would say, well, you know my derailers, then act on it. It's not as if they act on it themselves. But we are currently working for an industrial company in Germany where we help leaders identify strategic self-awareness and how to deal with that. It's a very high confidential project where they are given the chance to, in a psychological safe environment with one of our coaches, to reflect on their profiles. And I've looked at the profiles. We've done 20 so far, and except for one exception, they have the classic leadership derailers. And this is what also we will want to see in an extent. It relates to what I was saying before. Yeah.
Okay, next question. What patterns have you seen in how different derailers show up in leadership style, particularly under pressure? Let's kick this one off with you.
Yeah, I was looking through the data that we've collected over the years. This is 28 years with Career Connections. And it's interesting that diligence has always been the highest. So it's a pattern that I see that. Followed closely by imaginative, which ties with mischievousness. So I'm going to explain that in terms of the context of how you observe that.
Great, because those are a couple of diligent, I'm a 0, but the other two I'm maxing out. So let's talk about it.
Yeah, I think diligence usually shows up when things are not going right and leaders want to be able to take back control. They want to be the ones who are heroes, who are controlling the narrative. And whereas that might be good, then it denies the teams and others that they're working with an opportunity to also be able to contribute to the problem solving. And so therefore this means that the teams might feel overwhelmed and productivity really might not be as high because they're not feeling empowered as well. But the interesting one is on mischievous, because although there is an aspect of being thorough, being competitive, being a go-getter, actually in Kenya, our neighbors, we call them neighbors. If you look at the social media, the banter is that Kenyans are really forceful in trying to win or achieve whatever it is that they want. They want. So essentially, we've seen leaders who go through these barriers, and therefore they get into leadership quite early. And there's pressure for them to be able to get the results no matter the cost. Well, that might be good, breaking barriers. Then the challenge then becomes, how are you appreciating the rules and the procedures, to be seen as if you're not only focusing on getting the results, but you're getting it within the prescription or within the guidelines that have been set. So really balancing, pushing, and going over and beyond. And, as we say in Hogan, you know very well when you should be asking for permission, but you rather come back and ask for forgiveness after being able to deliver on that. So that's something that we see a lot with leaders, and especially because they're always being put under pressure to be able to deliver on results. And then lastly, on imaginative, you see a lot of innovative youngsters who are willing to come with very interesting ideas, and that's not all bad. The challenge is these unconventional ideas are not necessarily related to the problem at hand. So it might leave the team misoriented or not fully clear on what it is that they're supposed to deliver on, especially when the leadership is really trying to look at how best can we solve this problem instead of looking at what is practical right now.
Great. Peter.
Thank you, Blake. The research we have in terms of correlations with Hogan personality and the 360 show that there are three scales in the dark side that can be a real challenge. Excitable is often one of the most challenging ones you can have, and that would obviously correlate with low adjustment in the HPI. So that shows up under pressure of becoming angry, upset, moody, temperamental, and people just don't like it. It's not popular with your co-workers, or if you're a boss, demonstrating that to your team. The second most challenging one would probably be cautious, and cautious correlates with low ambition in the HPI. So it's that person who's motivated not to fail. And what happens is they don't show leadership. They're not assertive. They won't make decisions. They're sitting on the fence. They're easily embarrassed and don't want to make mistakes. So it's almost like being an absentee leader. I really can't show leadership. And the third one is reserved. And it's where I'm not a people person. I'm not interested in relationships. If I've got a spare hour, I'll do work, not people. I'm distant, aloof, uncommunicative. And to make the correlation, if you've got both the high excitable and the high reserved, that could show up under pressure or stress as lacking EQ, emotional intelligence. I'm volatile and I'm not a nice person.
So is this what you're seeing? Is this common in the various regions where you work? Are you calling these out as three common ones that you see?
Oh yeah, these three are very common because it's validated by the 360 data.
Okay.
And the 360 data is Australian data, New Zealand data, and increasingly the world.
Yeah.
So, and we always say personality's not fate, Blake. So if you've got the high excitable or the high cautious or the high reserved, what are we going to do about it?
Right.
So we say it's really about personality plus chosen behaviour is how other people see you. So what's the chosen behaviour to get around this? What are we going to do to make sure the negatives don't come out?
I was just curious because they're all falling in the moving away cluster.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's the
really
interesting, difficult one to have.
Okay.
And typically what got you there is probably technical skill, cognitive ability, great at problem solving, but maybe managing people is the challenge.
Yeah. And Nicole?
Yes, I would also say that in Germany you would say you have a lot of dutiful managers, diligent managers that are pushing their people to delivering 150% results. We are the land of engineers, if you will. I'd like to take a broader approach because we are advocating for, let's say, humble leadership in terms of helping others grow. So we are coaching against that. And when we do the personality assessments, we help leaders understand. So for Germany, I would say it's the skeptic and the cautious plus the diligent that is really cutting down on engagement with your employees. And we are helping not only leaders, but then their teams to step up and understand themselves.
Do you think that diligence is a reason that Germany produces possibly the best cars in the world?
I would say so, yes.
I sure love
and aesthetics.
yeah. Okay. Let's get to teams. And Nicole, I want to kick off with you because I see you having fun with your team on social media a lot. And so I got to give this one to you first. Not that I don't see it, that you're the other things, but Nicole, you and your team seem to be having a good time. So
high affiliation score.
Good. There it is. Can you think of a time when derailers created dysfunction within a team and how the group worked through it?
Yeah. First of all, I want to share a very personal example.
Okay.
We did a team report for our team. I think it was 2018 when I started to be a managing director, because we saw a lot of tension going on in the team with regards to expectations, doing sales, doing consulting, because everybody was basically doing the same role. And then in the team profile, I was actually having 2 sales consultants, and the rest of the team would be more consultants, putting psychology at the forefront of what they wanted to do. And that created in that team workshop a lot of tension and made me realize that I need to adjust the team. And we have organized it from there on, yes. But I can also share one other example where we have helped a Swiss team step up. It's a renewable energy team. The individual leaders got feedback from us also on derailing tendency. We aggregated results at team level. And they were about to get an investor in, and they weren't sure about the pricing. And although they were all pretty high on the classics, so high ambition, high status motivation, and pretty high bold, everyone, they were having a lot of standard deviation in the bold area, and they couldn't agree on a price. But what they realized with the help of the team workshop, they were too low in asking price. And this is what we then could facilitate in that discussion in the team workshop.
Yeah, and I'm curious, were these sales consultants and the other consultants having issues because maybe the sales consultants were high on mischievous?
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
That's just,
yeah.
You see that a lot in sales too.
Yeah.
So, and you see it in public relations, which is technically my profession. So, Peter, what do you think?
I'm thinking that, yes, teams can be hugely challenging. In fact, there's some recent research from the Centre for Creative Leadership, 80% of teams are underperforming. And we have other research from Gallup that 70% of the impact on a team comes from the actual leader. So first of all, you got to deal with the leader, make sure that person is being the best version of themselves, and then you get the team dynamics right. Some of the data we've looked at, we had a team recently where they were all very high on leisurely.
Ooh.
And there wasn't a shared strategic plan. Mm-hmm. There wasn't an agreed purpose statement. They didn't even have a consistent way around dealing with organisational values. So what happened in the absence of a high level of teamwork was everyone was doing their own thing. And with high leisurely, a lot of them loved it.
Yeah.
I can run my own race, set my own goals, do my own thing. And it got to the stage where people say, I don't know why we even come to these executive meetings. They don't. And so you can imagine the impact on the next level down.
Yeah.
The executive is a waste of time. It's useless. And another interesting one that we had, Blake, was the whole team had low dutiful. Now, I should mention at this stage, while we use the HDS as high scores represent strengths and so on, a very low score is the absence of a strength. And in Australia, we play around with very low scores. For example, think of someone with 0 for sceptical, naive, gullible, and 0 for excitable, no passion. Is there a pulse? Is there someone living in that person?
0 for cautious can be scary.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, what we had in this team was low dutiful, and the CEO said, "What the whole team does is criticise me all the time. They challenge me, they debate with me, they debate with each other, they criticise each other." So there was no sense of we're all together in this. And then I looked at the data, and they had high sceptical. So guess what? It hurt like hell when the low dutiful and high sceptical was playing out. It was nasty.
Yeah. Gicheha?
Yeah, we've just finished a leadership development program that involved the Hogan Assessments. So, of course, this executive coming from a large financial services institution, working in 6 countries within Africa, and this executive went through the self-awareness using the Hogans. But what was interesting is when we got to the Hogan team report and we were having team sessions with him. And this team was consistently very high on excitable, skeptical, and mischievous. So therefore, what that led to is a team that is very low on psychological safety and a team that has no trust, right? Because of those causes. And actually, when you look at the Hogan report further, you'll notice that in this specific group, they are very low on pragmatism, right?
Okay.
So meaning they'll engage, they'll talk, they'll do all that they're required to do, but nothing really will get executed. So there's a lot of dysfunction in that way, and in terms of feeling stuck. You can't be able to move forward because either you don't have a clear plan of implementation as a team, or you as an exco, you don't have the psychological safety to be able to challenge each other, to be able to look at how well can you be able to roll out those interventions, especially considering it's running across different countries. So we were working with this team, and some of the modules that followed thereafter were really targeted on enhancing the psychological safety, building trust, and also allowing them to really be very thorough and clear as far as the implementation plan is concerned. So very happy that the team at least found that very helpful, and actually in the second stage of that particular assignment, which will now involve also looking at what does their succession look like, because that aspect of low psychological safety was also rubbing off on the lower level down them.
Very interesting. Okay. Hey, this is going great, everyone. Well, let's move on. Let's keep rocking and rolling here. So now we're going to look at overall organizational effectiveness. So how can HDS trends across a leadership team reveal systemic risks within an organization? Let's start with Peter here.
Very good. So the point of leadership is to produce results, and teams actually deliver results, so judge the leader by their team. That's the approach we take. So what we do is ask, what's the purpose of the team? Have you got your strategic plan and KPIs agreed? In essence, you're looking, Blake, for the one team, one dream. Are we all in this together for a shared purpose and shared business outcomes? So you've got to establish that, because leaders are not born. I think they're made in the journey of life. But what we then do with the HDS is get everybody to share what their individual high scores are and what we call their red flags. What are the particular derailing characteristics you might have? And we use the red flags from the HDS technical manual. So it's a great little tool to be able to go in and say, hey, you've got, high mischievous. Have a look at these red flags. Which ones are you? So what we're trying to do is get self and team awareness and get the sharing, create the safety. You need to have those conversations. But otherwise, I mentioned the study from CCL, 80% of teams are underperforming. It's a nightmare in terms of organisational data. So I think
Which means leaders there's a problem there.
Oh, there's a huge problem.
Yeah.
I think there's a crisis globally right now around leadership teams and engagement. It's gotten worse in the last year, according to Gallup data that's just come out. So we in the Hogan family have got a huge responsibility to build better leaders, more dynamic teams, and an engaged workforce. And Blake, just one interesting statistic. We often talk about employee engagement. At the moment, Gallup says it's down to about 22%, those people who are actively engaged and are advocates for the business. When we look at the management data, 29% of managers are engaged. And so there's a huge problem there with the majority of managers not building high-performing teams, not having strategies to focus on engagement and retention. And, of course, then your bottom line disappears.
Yeah, absolutely. Gicheha.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Peter, on the point on engagement. We are seeing the lowest scores globally when it comes to engagement, and that's very concerning. I think it's very difficult right now to be leading teams, because the fact that now you can lead teams remotely, you were just talking about remote working when you're starting, it therefore means that you don't even have the chance to really connect with the person in a room like we are right now. It just means that leaders have to go an extra mile to be able to understand how are the teams doing and to be able to create that engagement. So very, very difficult in that respect. On an example I wanted to share here is regarding one. It's a multinational, and they had an office in Kenya, and the global HQ was outside of Africa, and this specific team was very high on result, right?
Okay.
So as you can see already, it means that not only is the geographical limitation there, but also the team is not integrating to the global HQ, right? So little communication, not enough sharing of information, and the fact that you're not fully integrated to the global team, then it means that the whole strategy is not being implemented as it should, because of the siloed approach when it came to leadership and implementation of strategies. And so when you're speaking to this team, one of the things that we uncovered was what is the impact of you not being fully integrated, with you not you're maintaining a siloed approach to how you're doing things. Of course, you're failing to be able to connect with the global strategy. It also meant from a succession perspective, the local team really couldn't be able to get promoted and to play a global role because you're not being seen, you're not being felt in there because they're just within their local environment. And of course, there's a lot of interventions that we proposed and others from a business perspective. But a couple of years down the line, we've been able to see that change. The team is now much more fully integrated. We are seeing much more promotions and the team being seen not only from their local office, but actually from a global HQ perspective, which of course now has allowed the team and the organization as a whole to be very, very strong as far as the succession is concerned, as opposed to always looking externally. Now they actually can be able to understand what's happening at the granular level and at the lowest level of the organization by ensuring that leaders who have the potential are shining and are being portrayed as so.
Excellent. Nicole, bring us on this subject.
Yes. So engagement rates in Germany and Switzerland, for example, are down really strikingly and appallingly low. So it's around 21%. Peter was sharing the numbers. And for us, it's a sign that this disengaged workforce cannot be motivated. But then it comes back to leadership. And this is what I'm seeing. We were involved with this Agile Leadership Study in 2016, where it was discussing what kind of competencies do we need to see in leaders. I think leaders today are also a little bit overwhelmed with what is going on, taking a right approach between focus on operations and being strategic at the same time. And then they have this disengaged workforce, working hybrid, having to motivate their people. So I'm going back to the strategic self-awareness where we say, okay, we have to give the leader the perspective of how he, she is being perceived by the team and then aggregate results at team level. And this is happening a lot at the moment. So we are running a lot of team workshops, helping the team understand basically the core strength that makes this team up, but also what the team is missing. And it's often very eye-opening for the leader to push in the right direction.
This is just such great wisdom all across the board. So I'm loving every minute of this. This is fun. Okay, so just getting down to a few questions left. We can start bringing this thing in for a landing. For this question, let's do a little story time. I like my story. They consider me Hogan's resident storyteller. First, can you share a story about a leader who transformed their leadership impact by addressing one key derailer? And Nicole, do you want to kick that one off?
Yes. So we had a women leader, and she was sharing her profile in a team setting with her team, and she had all the classic leadership derailers you should have, but she had one that being said was reserved. So she was moving away from others under stress, and she wasn't there for her team. She also was imaginative, putting on a lot of ideas under stress. So she was away and then doing the things by herself. It's like thinking, I can do it by myself better than the others. So she was sharing that very openly in the workshop, and everybody acknowledged that. And the team around her said, well, next time something like this happened, can you give us a sign? Or vice versa, we would tell you, now this is happening again, we don't see you, can we help? And this is the way how they got round, because the team was bottom up able to give her the reflection and says, hello.
Well, okay, that's a great example. So I'm glad we decided to go with the story element here. Gicheha, how about you?
So we know that on average, right, every leader will have 2 or 3 derailers. Mm-hmm. And earlier on, we are saying, what happens when a leader owns their derailer and say, but that's who I am? What are you going to do about that, right? Mm-hmm. Because you can either use that for advantage or to say, I can't change, it's just who I am. Yes. Right? So this specific instance is a leader who was very high on excitable, right? And actually, they were an expatriate. And so they've been successful elsewhere, they've been very expressive, and that has always been taken kindly. And now as an expatriate here, you're leading a team which cannot be able to keep up with this leader's highs and lows, right? So on the one hand, the leader thinks it's just who they are, they've excelled elsewhere, but the team is leading currently in Kenya that particular time, felt that, they're off balance with him. They didn't know what to expect. And so there was a clash of expectations and motivating that team to be able to deliver on results. And so through strategic self-awareness, where the leader actually went through various assessments, and especially around the HPI, what the strengths are, the HDS, and really bringing it to this leader for them to understand that, you'll have some strengths associated with this particular scale, but then you could also have some negative behaviors that will be associated to this scale. And that was very interesting for this leader because they didn't appreciate that you could have both, that the same scale could have an impact on the strengths as well as on the negative. And so part of the development plan that followed thereafter really focused on allowing him to be much more structured, putting together a detailed structure, especially around performance management, that lists the deliverables for the team, lists the timelines, and also give enough time for the team to be able to understand what to expect at the very end. And putting that structure all through, which supported him to really stay on course, no matter what he would have naturally done or acted, depending on what's happening on board.
That's really interesting. I'm sure with that high excitable, that's gotta be one of those things. I don't know if it's with the global issue of engagement. It would be hard to be engaged whenever you don't know which boss is going to show up and what kind of what mood is this person going to be in? How volatile is he or she going to be today? So very good example. And Peter, what about you?
Blake, I'm going to be a little bit cheeky here.
Do it, please.
My case study is not around one of the 11 scales, but the cluster called moving away.
Okay.
So we had a brilliant young engineer on a big construction engineering site, the moving away profile. So, you had the excitable, the skeptical, and so on. When we did the Hogan 360, it was the opposite. Very calm under pressure, wonderful people skills, a big motivator, very supportive. And so we had 6 months of coaching. And I said, how did you get such a great 360 despite the underlying tendencies towards the moving away? And he says, Peter, I made a decision a year or two ago. I am highly motivated about my career success. I want to be a project manager, not just a middle manager. I'm getting married. We hope to be starting a family and getting a mortgage. So I've got my whole career on the line. And thanks to Hogan's, I know about the dark side.
Yeah.
I know about my red flags. And he said, it hurts like hell because every day, every week, I've got to practice. I've got to control the bad habits and bring the good habits to work. And he gave up the partying and drinking. He was exercising more. He shared everything with his partner at home, and she supported him. And what I can share with you, he's now gone on to become that project manager.
Well, great, yeah, and that's a good tie between his professional life and his personal life, and I'm sure that maybe his home life might have gotten a lot better too.
I think you're right, Blake.
You never know. It's funny how marriage can do those things. So
it belongs to the sense that RT always says, can people change if they really want to? And that's really impressive.
You don't necessarily change your personality, but you can change your behavior.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, we're getting to the end here. Can you share a story where derailers changed the trajectory of someone considered for succession? Gicheha, let's go with you first.
Yeah. We had this group CFO of Pan-African Bank who came for coaching with Career Connections. And this group CFO has been very successful. Their performance has been incredible all through. And therefore, they're in the pipeline to become the next CEO for the organization. But the organization had been going through some various changes. And during the time when you're supposed to be considered for the role of a CFO, the board felt otherwise, right? And what the board was referring to was they felt that this leader was too pushy. They may not be humble enough. They may not be able to take feedback. And true to it, this CFO, one of the derailers, actually was a cluster around moving against, high on bold, high on imaginative, high on caution. So that was there in the results. But the challenge is that had taken him through and was contributing to the performance some years ago. The organization had changed, and they needed a leader who will be much more humble, who can be able to relate with others and also really accept this feedback. And so it was really sad because at that particular time, therefore, he just couldn't get the role of a CEO, just because they felt that he might not possess what they call humble leadership, or it might impact with the culture of the organization that was being created, which is a culture of being humble, receiving feedback, and being a team player. So very, very sad story.
Nicole.
Yes, we were working with a headhunter to assign a new head of legal for a company that was helping people start again. We were helping a headhunter assigning a new head of legal in a search project, and we were analyzing the candidates, working with the headhunter, and putting up strengths and weaknesses. And we had this one candidate that was low prudent and high mischievous, and we had some red flags with regards to that.
Are you talking about me, Nicole?
Are you a head of legal?
No, I am not.
I think the profile is a fit for what you do, but head of legal, I would say.
Head of legal, this is a problem.
So what happened is the CEO went to see the candidate in an interview, and they kicked off really well because they found out they had a same history at McKinsey at the time. And so all the red flags were covered, and the candidate said, all right, I'm going to come November 1st. And they even waited for him for 4 months. Come October 31st, the candidate calls and says, you know what? My current boss has given me a great offer and I've decided to stay. So that was a whole bummer because the whole thing exploded. We got a call. It's like, what didn't we see in the Hogan? And we said, well, we noticed the red flags in terms of low prudence, high mischievous. And he was only waiting for a sign to be put on the spotlight, in the limelight. And as soon as he got the credit, no matter where it came from, his old boss, his new boss, he was changing direction. So that was really something.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right, Peter.
My story, Blake, is about a person who was a CEO. Their contract was 5 years with the option of renewal for a further 5 years. And in their final year of this initial 5-year contract, he derailed big time. It was diligent at 100. Now, we were coaching this guy for 6 months. All the team were sharing their Hogans. And the team actually said to him, we don't mind you being super organised or having high standards, but your perfectionism is killing us. You make us redo every single piece of work. One of the team actually said, no matter how many hours I put in and how hard I try, you always find mistakes and faults and make me do rework. And it was killing them. And then the marketing manager quit because she couldn't handle the boss telling her how to do marketing. And he then announced to the team that he would take on that role for the next 6 months because it's time we sorted out marketing. So he's going to be the CEO, he's going to be the chief marketing officer.
Oh, no.
And all this was getting back to the board, and the board came and spoke to me. We did a 360. He got a terrible 360. All about being controlling, micromanaging, fussy, and his contract was terminated. And of course, the public reason was he's chosen to go on to a new career path elsewhere. But he lost his job as CEO.
Well, I mean, that is a perfect example of how, lacking that strategic self-awareness and how it can come back and bite you. And sometimes the stakes are pretty high.
Yes.
In fact, oftentimes the stakes are pretty high. Okay, you all thought that was the last question, but it's really not. So I just want to get your thoughts here, and we'll start with you, Peter. Australia, New Zealand, Ireland now. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
On Peter Berry's continued expansion across the globe.
Next is Miami.
Miami's next. All right. Well, Peter, what do you see from a Hogan perspective, and how Hogan evolves in the markets where you and your associates represent?
Thank you, Blake. A very good question. Look, 25 years ago, when Dr. Hogan gave Shane and I the rights to be a distributor in Australia, no one understood what the word Hogan meant.
Right.
We had no brand awareness. HR didn't know what it was. So we've had to do a tremendous job of marketing and events and certifications, like all the other distributors. It's a huge challenge. What I can tell you, Blake, is without a shadow of doubt, the 3 Hogan personality assessments are the gold standard.
Right.
In Australia today, there's no debate, there's no challenge. It's the validity, the science, the reliability, all of that data is there. So we are the world leader, and certainly have a massive reputation in Australia. So I see us doing more and more in that selection and development space,
Okay.
particularly tied to business outcomes. So leadership effectiveness should be measured by 360 employee engagement. Have you got a high-performing team? And what are your balanced scorecard business results, including operations, customers, and financial indicators? So I think that's where we're taking Hogan in to the next level. We're here to help you solve your people issues. Like Jim Collins famously said, get the right people on the bus and the wrong people off the bus. But the reason we're doing that is to enable you to get better business outcomes. So Hogan is about your bottom line.
Gicheha.
Yeah, 28 years ago, Career Connections introduced the art of assessments in Kenya, and that has evolved over time. And therefore, Hogan Assessments is our main partner when it comes to the clients that we work with. And we're not only just working in Kenya, we've also been able to serve the wider Africa, as you might know. And I do see a lot of growth, especially around selection assessment. I do see great opportunity in there because right now with AI and whatever is happening in the digital world, you really are not sure the profile that you're seeing, whether it belongs to a particular person or it belongs to a bot, right? Because AI really has made it such that everyone can be able to put their best foot forward and everyone can be able to present themselves in a particular way. And yeah, it's not just about the candidates, right? Even us as organization, we also use AI for various things, whether that's for sifting, ATS, whatever it might be. So I do therefore see a role where assessment really serve as the solid identifier of who is a person that is sitting in front of you, what are their strengths, and how can we be able to use that and channel and harness that for their development and for them to deliver into the role. And therefore, hopefully, that's also is a solution that we can be able to use to really get away from the noise of who did that profile, was it AI generated, who did that assessment, because Hogan Assessments really provide an opportunity for individuals to be able to respond to the survey in the best way they can. But, you know, the fact that we interpret that and Hogan allows for us to be able to understand the reputation that an individual will have really provides for strategic self-awareness, not only for the participant or the candidates, but also for organizations. So I think for me, it's also for any organization that's worried about what they should do about all that's happening within the future of work right now. It's also to consider validated assessments, such as Hogan Assessment, which really ride on the science and the art of measurement.
Great. Nicole.
For us, the same. I'm doing Hogan distribution for 20 years now. And from the hang-ups I had on the phone, it's like, do you think a leader is going to take an online assessment? No way. 20 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
We are today regarded as like the Mercedes from the assessments, if you look in Germany, Switzerland, and Austria. So people are very well educated. That being said, I think we need to educate the people about the validity and reliability of those tools and where to set the selection, because the tendency, and you were just saying AI coming up more and more, especially with younger generations, they want more immediate feedback. So we have a huge potential to tap into these resources to be able to deliver much quicker results or different results from 120 pages PDF reports, for example, that people can work on a day-to-day basis. So in the area of selection, we are not as strong as we could be. Our emphasis is really still in the area of leadership development. So taking the motor, let's say, into consideration that we have with the strong assessments, I think there's huge potential going forward.
Great. I really, really enjoyed this. Appreciate seeing all of you. And, I hope you enjoy the rest of your time in Miami.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Blake.
And Blake, keep derailing.
I will.
It makes you a more interesting person.
Don't you worry, Peter. And that does it for this special episode of The Science of Personality right here in Miami. Cheers, everybody.
This has been the Science of Personality podcast, brought to you by Hogan Assessments. You can access all episodes on our website, thescienceofpersonality.com, or on the streaming service of your choice.